The Pew Research Center estimates that there are more than 1 million Muslim women in the U.S. Of those Muslim women, approximately 43% wear some form of head covering. Given this prevalence, all of us probably at some point have known or will know someone who wears a head covering. In a country like the U.S., with a huge mixing pot of different cultures and backgrounds and histories, it helps us to understand those around us, particularly head covering, as it has been in the news, international news, a fair amount recently. I'm certainly not an expert on this topic, but I have done a fair amount of research over the last few weeks. And in my research, I want to share with you some that I learned about the history and development of Muslim clothing in general, and then some of the reasons that Muslim women do wear head coverings, two of which are the culture and the religion. So to understand the impact and the history of head covering, I wanted to start with the clothing in general. And like any culture, Muslim clothing has evolved over the years. If you go back in history, typically clothing evolves from the climate that you're in. So in the Middle East, it's very hot, there's a lot of sun, so they tended to wear long clothing, but light flowing clothing to protect themselves from the sun. And then they would cover their heads with something. So the men typically wore turbans. The women, as you can see in this diagram from James Biber of ABC News, there are several different types of head coverings and veils that have evolved. The three most popular of which are the hijab, which covers only the woman's hair, also the niqab, which covers her face except for her eyes, and then the burqa, which covers her entire face with a veil of mesh over her eyes that she can see out but can't be seen. So why do Muslim women wear these head coverings? There are a variety of reasons women make this choice. One of the most prevalent of which is for religious reasons. The Quran does not actually speak of head covering specifically at all, but it does have a very strong command that both men and women should dress modestly. What that means exactly, devout Muslims are often divided on. So on the one hand, as Rayan al-Shawab said in his article Covering Up, Muslim women who decide to conceal their hair and more tend overwhelmingly to cite divine mandate as their motivation. So many women do feel that that is what they should do to be good Muslims. On the other hand, there are an increasing number of women who are deciding that that is not part of being a good Muslim, that is not part of following that command. Rasmaya Abdelnabi from Chicago told NPR in April 2011, "I've done my research, and I don't feel the hijab's foundation is from Islam. I think it comes from Arab culture." Which brings us to the second common reason that women cite for their decision. Now, the interesting debate with the head coverings and the culture is over whether these veils and these head coverings bring women more freedom or whether it is a way to oppress her. So many modern women do find that Western clothing and Western fashion is a way they can express their individuality. It's a way that they can find freedom in that. Others feel that the veil protects them and gives them greater value. So Shalina Litt, a radio presenter from Birmingham, England, recently decided to wear the full veil, and she told National Geographic about the first conversation she had with a man after that decision. "I thought, wow, this is so liberating. He's having to listen to my words, not judge me by my clothes or my face, but paying attention to purely what I have to say." On the other hand, the common concern with women wearing veils for cultural reasons is that they're forced to, as a way to oppress or control them. And this is difficult to get accurate research on because those women typically would not be able to share their story or be able to answer a survey simply because of the situations they're in. So this is certainly a big issue. Dr. Raihan Ismail said about this problem, "The problem is not the niqab, it is being married to someone who is possessive and oppressive." So though there are some common reasons, every woman has her own story and her own decisions for the reasons that she's come to. The common reasons we discussed today included the historical development of the general clothing in Islamic cultures, the influence of religious beliefs about modesty, and the cultural debate of whether a veil frees a woman or oppresses her. And as I alluded to in the beginning, head coverings have become important in international news recently. Over the last 10 years or so, laws have been passed or are currently being discussed in France, Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, Canada, England, and several other countries about either completely banning head coverings or, in certain circumstances, banning head coverings. And this has caused a lot of debate because it's not just head coverings, it's all forms of religious clothing. The New York Times reported on May 26th of this year that the prejudice and violence Muslim women are experiencing is massively increasing when they go out in public wearing their head coverings. So we will have to see how that all develops over the next few years and what impact, if any, it has on our country and our culture.